Thank you everyone for joining. Hopefully you could see the screen okay. And during this event, it's going to be resolve your distribution challenges with VistaVu Solutions. And we're going to go through the Resolv distribution solutions for SAP Business One. On the agenda today, we're going to give a brief background introduction on VistaVu Solutions. We'll also provide an overview of Resolv for SAP Business One for those who have not gone through the software just yet. And then we're going to identify 6 key areas where we can help resolve distribution challenges with our solution. We'll have a brief product demonstration, and then we'll open it up for a question and answer session. So VistaVu Solutions, we have over 75 employees. The corporate office is in Calgary, Alberta. We have over 250 customers in North America, comprising a total of 8,000 users and over 50 global channel partners. So if you are interested in Resolv, it's more likely than not that your partner is also a representative of Resolv. Our focus is the small to mid-size industries, market organizations. We're proud to have over 30 different industry awards, and we also have over 30 years in the distribution industry. VistaVu represents not only just SAP Business One, but we also represent Business by Design. We're currently working on retrofitting and redesigning Resolv, so it's going to be available for Business by Design mid next year. We also have our field service application, FieldView, which integrates currently with Business One and Business by Design. We also have a suite of integration products, including the SAP Cloud Platform integration and Dell's Booming. And finally, we have system extensions where we do customizations, automations, and integrations to your SAP solution. So let's talk a little bit about the Resolv product. It's currently available for SAP Business One 9.2 and above. And the Resolv was developed specifically for Business One, utilizing what we call a B1 first approach. This is where we utilize existing SAP Business One functionality, databases wherever possible. And when there's not existing functionality, we'll use user-defined tables, user-defined fields, SAP's development tools, so everything is within the Business One umbrella. Resolv has been certified by SAP for SQL since 2009, and we've been certified on HANA since 2014. We have one single add-on for Business One. So as we go through this solution, you don't need to buy all of the modules. You don't need to deploy all of them. You could just pick and choose 1, 2, 3, whatever fits your business requirements. And in the future, should you need to add an additional module, it's simply as easy as purchasing or subscribing to that module, and within a matter of minutes, it's activated. It is a single 64-bit add-on to Business One for both SQL and HANA, and we take full advantage of the SAP service layer. Like Business One, we have a combination of a SDK-based product that you're seeing here. We also have done an extensive amount of work with the SAP Fiori web client, which we'll also be demonstrating shortly. With the web client, we have developed a comprehensive warehouse management system that does picking, packing, receiving, directed put away. All aspects of the warehouse have been fully automated and added into the web client. We also have components of our equipment rental solution, our quality control solution, vehicle routing, our order to cash management or operation transaction center. This allows warehouse managers to have real-time visibility into Business One from their mobile client, our allocation system, our warehouse planner, and finally timesheets for those employees in the warehouse that are entering their time for production runs, things like that. So let's talk about the distribution challenges that we're going to look to address today. Just as a note, I'm going to be focusing in on the Resolv functionality that's been added to Business One. SAP Business One has a lot of functionality that addresses these 6 areas and more. I'm not going to be touching on those today. Obviously, it's showing the extended functionality that we've added to the product. So we're going to focus on Areas around customer service, single source of information, integrated commerce, supply chain visibility, communication, and operational efficiencies. So when we look at the distribution challenges we look to address in Resolv related to customer service, it's helping to ease doing business with a distributor, answering information, questions, and requests promptly, accurately, providing proactive communications. This is through immediate emails, text messages, SFTP, and EDI communications with customers, and ultimately maintaining high fill rates with customers by having enough inventory in stock and tools to allocate inventory to customers so that your fill rates are maintained high. A single source of information. This is probably one of the more overused phrases within our industry. However, it is very, very accurate and useful when you come into answering questions, getting information from your Business One system. The manner in which we've developed Resolv is to have everything go inside of the Business One database. So whether it's the native Business One transactions, which will obviously feed the HANA or the SQL database, but any of the transactions that we create in Resolv, such as our container program or our quality control, are also in that same harmonized data source. And when we do integration to outside systems such as EDI or e-commerce or connecting to 3PL providers, they're also going into that same data source. That provides a lot of advantages when replying to customers' requests, where products are, doing reports, analytics. Going into the single source of data will always be the best way to operate. Integrated commerce. We have a great e-commerce system that we represent from an organization called Focus Impressions with their product Focus Point. But beyond B2B and B2C e-commerce, really distributors need to integrate with their trading partners. This could be through EDI with their customers, their large retailers such as Target and Walmart or Amazon, but also with their vendors on when to buy and how much to buy from those vendors. Also looking at some of the B2B and kind of the digital commerce is doing field service. So when your field service technicians are out repairing products, they can request products quicker. Those products can be delivered to a site more promptly. Billing can happen more efficiently. And finally, the mobile commerce for sales representatives to take orders, to get status of deliveries, information related to their customers in a real-time fashion. Looking into some of the other challenges, and this has definitely happened during COVID, is visibility into the supply chain. Where are the products? Are they coming in? Are they at the port? Tying into integrated, a lot of these things are going to overlap, but distributors really had a challenge answering questions, finding out where their products are, answering their customers' questions, as well as their vendors' questions. So we provide live views into distributors that have vehicles doing their own deliveries for routing, but also we have the integrations into the 3PL providers. So if you don't have your own warehouse, or you have a combination of your own warehouse and public warehouses, and you want to integrate to those providers, we have that real-time connection. So you could see your on-hand quantities, your on-order quantities that are inside of those public warehouses. Also having visibility into the FTL and LTL providers such as UPS and FedEx and XPO not only makes your process more efficient as far as getting your freight charges, providing your truck routing information, but also in your completing of your billing process, since there's a real-time integration on the freight charges inside of Business One. And finally, some other examples where we enhance the real-time view into the supply chain is the inbound containers. So if you have overseas vendors where you're buying products and you are cutting purchase orders within Business One, we allow those purchase orders to go on containers that are coming inbound into your warehouses and ports. Using IoT and sensors, the information that are captured from those sensors, such as containers, can track really to pinpoint where those containers may be, Also on the trucks, where those trucks are, if they're stuck in traffic and routing. So the IoT and machine learning and AI really are starting to now become part of this process and embedded into our solutions. Some of the other challenges we look to address is really communication. If you're a Business One user, you understand that there is some integration to emails. We have alerts, there's approvals, but the alerts inside of Business One are focused really on internal alerts to employees and customers. What we have developed in a module called Data Messenger is really a proactive communication tool that goes externally. So they could be associated to your business partners, being customers, prospects, vendors, employees, or any email address. And the communication can be automatically triggered based off of the addition of a transaction. So when we add a new order, we can send an order confirmation upon the add or the delete or the change of the status of a transaction, or it could be done on a scheduler. And these documents can be sent via email, text, fax, or FTP for uploading. And once they're set up, they can automatically be triggered out to the customer based off of a variety of rules. And finally, the last area we're going to discuss, and some of the areas that we address, is the overall operational efficiencies. So this will talk about allocations for customers, for items based off of different rules that you're able to set up, allocations at bins for items and for customers. The other aspect of it is labor assignments. So if there's a particular worker inside the warehouse that picks products better, is more accurate, or if you want to assign a specific warehouse worker to a cage or a specific location of valuables, you can do that in our advanced allocation system. Other areas are really just a single integrated pick, pack, shipping, and invoicing process. So with the WMS, utilizing SAP's database, you're able to pick on the handheld devices using a variety of Android devices, pack it, ship it, invoice it, all in a single process without really anyone going inside of Business One. And some of the other areas to improve efficiencies within the warehouse for distributors are directed put away, cross stock, and the order reservations that I mentioned will have the allocations of those items for customers in specific locations. So what I'd like to do now is to step into the software. And highlight some of these features. Excuse me there. So let's talk about the customer service levels, improving customer service levels. As I mentioned, some of the areas that we want to focus in on is really making sure that you have products for customers. And obviously with COVID and the problems with the supply chain, there's still going to be issues out there. And you want to make some decisions on which customers have products allocated. Now, the order reservations component here, this is one screen. This functionality is available throughout Resolv. And what you're able to do here is do an allocation of inventory from inbound orders to outbound demand. So the allocations can be from a purchase order, a production order, a transfer, and it can be to outbound sales orders, quotes, AR reserve invoice, production orders if it's a component, or transfer requests to other warehouses on the outbound side. And the screen is designed where you have a top section, so you'll see a purchase order here, and how many ordered, how many open, and then how many are committed to other orders down here. In this screen, you can do the allocations manually. So we can come in here, and if you have authorizations, you can come through and manually allocate items to customers, so you can make that decision. We have automatic allocations, so you don't have to go through this process. Or if you'd like to, you could have it exported to Excel if you have a lot of sales orders where you want to do your allocations, and then have it re-imported where you're doing it here. So you can come through, manually type it, or again, there's some automated rules so where you can put in partial quantities or all, and it will allocate it against this purchase order coming in. And when those items come in, we use SAP bins, and we're going to put them in specific bin locations within the warehouse that are allocated to these customers. So the allocation program as part of the order reservation is a key customer service tool. The other area is really looking at and providing accurate answers to customers' questions quickly, accurately, with all the information in a single location. We have our OTC module, and from this screen, you're looking at SAP transactions being quotes and orders and invoices. The design is having the lowest level transaction, working their way all the way up to invoices and payments. But we also have our transactions from Resolv. So it could be answering a question about a customer's sales order. And I have one customer here on the phone. I'm answering questions for Grohl & Hawkins about all of their open sales orders, whether they have reserved items or not, whether they're approved or not. The top section here is acting as a filter for the data below. Excuse my dogs in the background. If the customer has EDI transactions, which is part of our EDI module, to look at transactions coming in or out, and this one doesn't, but we'll look at all customers for EDI instead of one particular customer. And in here, let's see if I have some invoices usually. I could see this one doesn't have it in here, any of the EDI transactions here. Or if I want to answer some information about the warehouse, where is my order? When is it going to be shipping? And in here, since I have the device and everything is time and date stamped of when it's gone into the warehouse, I may want to get visibility and look at all of the orders that have been released for picking but not yet picked. If I'm the warehouse manager, I may want to make a decision on reassigning some pick tickets to people. So I get that information here, again, all from the same screen. If a scenario is coming through where I'm trying to answer customers' questions about an order being delivered, with the freight system that's tying into the various LTLs and full truckload carriers, I can look at tracking numbers to see, all right, let me see everything that's been shipped, and I could get a hyperlink directly out to the carrier from here if I'm talking to All Island Supplies on the phone, and that hyperlinks and pushes through to UPS or FedEx. And I may just say it's not a real order, but we'll pass through so your customer service can provide that information to their accounts directly from within Business One. So this one screen provides a lot of information, again, looking to improve our customer services. I'm not going to touch on standard SAP transactions since everyone here should be familiar with them. But the last two areas that I want to touch on here that we have embedded is really our quality control module. And if there are QC transactions related to customer sales orders or customer returns, you could see the QC transactions from this screen and answer your customers' questions. Finally, often, even if we're doing a lot of things digitally for sales and so forth, you have customers call over the phone that still says, what's my price on a product and how much do you have in stock? To answer that question, we have developed what we call the pricing and availability module. And I'll go back to that one customer, Grohl & Hawkins, and I'll focus on our Kentucky warehouse. And while I'm on the phone with them or just trying to get an order through that they may have emailed over, I can find out for that customer all of the items, and if they have special pricing, you'll see it here, but their default pricing, how much I have in stock, how much I have committed and on-ordered. In here, we have last pricing. We also have available to promise, alternative items, and a few extra features that really kind of turn this into an order entry tool is what we call the order pad. I'm going to filter on just previously purchased items or previous sales, so I'm not seeing tens of thousands of items. And if I hit the order pad, it turns it into an order entry grid. And from here, I can type in quantities if the customer says, okay, I want 2 of these and 3 of those and 5 of these and 6 of those and so forth. And I could either save it if the customer is going to contact me later for follow-up, or if I want to turn it to an order or a quote or an order, I simply hit that. It runs a macro behind the scenes, and it will launch SAP's quote entry screen and create a new quote. We have the same functionality also available on the purchase order screen. So that quote has been created. We didn't have a default price for the customer, but in here we've now created that quote for the customer while we have them on the phone. So when we're looking at customer service levels, which was the first area of focus, these are just a few areas amongst many others that we look to drive and improve customer service levels. Another area, really more behind the scenes, but is really the most important, is proper inventory replenishment. What we have done with Resolv, if we've utilized the inventory replenishment rules of a gentleman by the name of Gordon Graham, who has written several books on inventory management for distributors, as well as John Schreibfeder has effective inventory management. We've incorporated both of their rules for replenishment. And this will be this is in addition to SAP's MRP rules that they have. But with this, we can have per item, per warehouse specific replenishment rules. And we could have, we added in safety allowances. We added in order quantity methods. So you could have EOQ, manual, or movement classes, which I'll discuss momentarily. We have order point, line point, as well as min max. And then we have we have a replenishment methodology. So when you're looking at replenishing inventory for a warehouse, where do we get that inventory? Do we get it on a production? Do we get it on a buy? Do we get it on a transfer? So when we do hit our replenishment point and we need to buy items or replenish items, I should say, it will automatically create a purchase order, a production order, or a transfer. The other piece that I want to mention on here on this one screen is something called movement classes. Now, what will happen is there's 14 movement classes based off of Gordon Graham's replenishment methodology. The first movement class is, I think, about the top 2.5 or 3.5% moving items, fastest moving items and valuable items for that warehouse. The next class is the next lower percentage, another 5%, all the way down to 11, 12, and 13, which are really your slow and dead moving stock. You really don't need to do anything. You just post your SAP transactions, and the system will automatically have an update routine, put these items into moving classes by warehouse. So you can use these features to help put items in certain bins. You may want to have fast moving items together by the shipping dock. But people also use the slower moving classes to get rid of dead stock and free up space inside the warehouse. So we have reports and queries that you could utilize to have, let me see all my dead stock for movement class, let's say 12 and 13. Movement class 14 is an undefined one. You're not tracking it yet. One other thing worth noting, if you're just recently on Business One and moved to Business One, you have the capability to import usage from your previous system. So you could work with your B1 partner, and they can get sales data and usage data from your other system, and we can import that usage into our replenishment system so that you'll have your monthly usage for your items for as long as you've been on your legacy system. Okay, so in here, what you're seeing is your monthly actual usage. And there's something called qualified usage. If you have unusual usages, high or low, the system will flag that for you and allow you to exclude that from your averages so it doesn't skew your order quantities. We also have qualified lead times. So again, the lead times right now in the last year have been a bit wacky. So right now your lead times may be 90 days, but traditionally they were 30 days. So you may want to exclude the current lead times from your averages. Finally, and I'd like to move on from here, we incorporate, I may have lost my connection to my server. There we go. We incorporate the Gordon Graham and the Schreibfeder rules. So you can look at here, these items being 6-month rolling average, seasonal items, weighted averages, and finally, what we've added in recently, which has become quite popular with customers, is in addition to using any of these 20 plus replenishment rules, restocking rules that we have, if you have your own set of rules that you really trust and you want to utilize, you or your SAP partner can use SAP queries, and for this one item, for this warehouse, you can choose your own custom forecast formula that it was written with an SAP query. So this will factor in, other things that the system or traditional replenishment forecast do not utilize. So again, tying back into customer service and addressing some of the challenges of distributors, inventory replenishment is key there. Next area I mentioned earlier is a single source of information. And with that, if you're using a warehouse management system, if you're using another system to enter in your orders that is outside of Business One, your employees are going back and forth to answer questions. Your reports aren't accurate. Your inventory quantities are often out of balance. And what we have done to kind of build upon that philosophy with the single source of information is we developed, as I mentioned several times, our warehouse management inside of Business One. So we are using SAP's Item Master. We're using SAP's barcode. So if I want to put in a new barcode, 9991234 as a barcode for eaches, again, we're using SAP's units of measure. That will be my barcode, one of my barcodes for eaches. And I'll show you that in the WMS later. We're also using the SAP purchasing units of measure and the dimensions for when you build a container, which this one in the demo data doesn't have the length, the width, and the height, but that we will use when we want to have utilization space inside of containers. Okay, so in here, I won't go through every field, but we do utilize the Item Master. We use the serial and the bin, and with a serial and batch, I should say, and we also use the bins. So SAP bins are our bins. They can't get out of balance. I've heard numerous stories from customers where their inventory in the WMS does not match Business One. That is impossible with our system. What we do though is, in addition to using SAP's rules, saying this is a receiving bin or exclude this bin from allocations, which we'll honor inside the WMS, we extend the functionality of these bins. So you're able to use these bins if you have our quality control. So if it's going to be an inspection bin for inbound products that you're running through a QC process during purchase order receiving from a new vendor, if those items have failed their inspections, we have a not okay bin, and they're transferred into different bin locations that are not allocated, and so forth, rejected and reworked. Again, these will be SAP bins that have some additional functionality, such as QC, replenishment sources, and a staging bin. We also will use it for cross-stocking. So when you have some back-ordered products from customers and you have a new purchase order being received or a transfer being received, we can have items stored in this bin where we're going to then release the sales order. So instead of someone putting them away and then somebody else going to pick them from the other location, we keep them in one cross-stock bin location. Okay, so that's an example of kind of the single source. But if you need to do a report, if you need to get additional information out of B1, now you're doing a dashboard. Now you're doing a report or a query against those same tables. All right. Next, I wanted to talk about the. Let me save that. Excuse me. Integrated commerce. And when I talk about that, I'm not really looking at B2B, as I mentioned. Again, we have a great B2B system. I'm really looking at integrated to other people's systems through web services, XML, or other technologies. And what we have is we have embedded an EDI program inside of Business One. So inside of your business partner master, if you're needing to do EDI with Amazon or Walmart or whoever it may be, Target, you have an EDI button. That EDI button opens up the window I already had. And in here, you're going to have specific rules for your EDI trading partners. You don't have to go outside of Business One for this. You'll indicate here what transactions do you do with Amazon, and then some transactional processing rules. So when do you want to send the 855? After there's an approval, after we do the pick list, manually. So there's system-wide, company-wide options, and then there's customer or vendor-specific information. Then you have your rules on if an EDI transaction fails, company-wide, you may have one person that handles that, or if you have someone that specifically handles the Amazon account, which a lot of companies do, they may get notified that, hey, an inbound order failed, so Doris is going to get an internal message or an email or both. You could also send it to a customer that, hey, your EDI order failed. Did you change something? These fields up here, all of them are fairly consistent. And what you're seeing here in EDI is really a cross-referencing of data. So your cross-referencing of data is in the EDI string, warehouse 999 New Jersey, in the EDI data really equals what we set up in the warehouse as Amazon Carteret, or whatever else it might be. So we have that same thing for payment terms, shipping types. So if your data in B1, your fields in B1 are not exactly the way the data is coming in, or it changes, then you can have it all cross-referenced here. You don't see items here because we use the business partner master items in standard SAP. Finally, in here, again, to improve customer service, to make things more efficient in the warehouse, you have something that looks very ordinary, which is actually very extraordinary, and it provides a lot of functionality, is the capability for EDI transactions from Amazon to have rules at the header or transaction level or at the line level. We have an example of a customer that's using this that has it where if there's certain zip codes inside the header of the customer, it will default to one warehouse or the other based off of the customer's closest location. That same rule could be at the line item if you have the ship tos at the line item. So that's an example of when you have data coming in an EDI file and you need to associate a process with that, you can do that at the header or specific at the line item level. Okay, so that's part of kind of the integrated transactions. When you look at what we have for the 3PL, it's really the same concepts, but you're not using EDI. The 3PL system is traditionally XML technology, and it's used instead of EDI. So a lot of times warehouses have lower technology. They're not big on EDI, let's say. We can integrate to warehouses, public warehouses. A lot of times they're also other outside manufacturers that are doing processes. The same mapping that we have in place. And then there's different ways you could bring in transactions. So behind the scenes, there's a scheduler that runs that you could do transactions that come into Business One. So if we have in, let's say, all of the sales orders that have kind of been, we want to find out what's been shipped and so forth, we can do a manual search and bring them in. I'm not sure if there's any in here. And they can come in manually, or we can run a routine behind the scenes and they'll enter in as sales orders inside of Business One. So you have an import and an export routine to the warehouses for basically all of your sales transactions, your purchasing, your inventory transactions, and we always provide you a user log on what has happened. Okay. Lastly, when we talk about integrated commerce and integrated supply chain, as I've discussed, we integrate to dozens of different shipping carriers. They're all done through web services. So again, the UPS is the FedEx, the Postal Service, We recently integrated to Uber Freight, which is a multi-carrier system owned by Uber. And in here, as you're doing your sales orders and your picks, the packing list automatically is created. So you could have a ship to address, you could have a ship from address, and you could have blind drop ships. So if you're drop shipping from to your customer's customer and they want to have your address and information hidden, you could do that. And you'll have your package level detail. So whether you're using our freight system without the WMS and someone is going into this screen and assigning items into different containers, or if someone's using the device and picking and packing, it will automatically tie in here to the individual boxes of this shipment. We also have the capability to mark up the freight. So in this one, we have different scenarios that you could set up. So you're making some money on freight if you'd like to, and you could have it where it's a shipment cost plus a percentage, or plus a minimum charge of $1 per box, however scenario you may have. So you have cost plus, you have your shipping carrier minus, you have about a dozen different additional charges that you're able to automatically set up when you're shipping out the system, shipping out the products. When it goes through the whole process, before when I was talking about how things will work and how things are automated, once we do the pick and the pack, you could have the system automatically, once you do the shipping, and if you have some defaults set up, automatically generate the invoice after we've gone through this process. So there's no additional confirmation that's needed. We'll automatically create in here what's been picked, packed, and shipped, turned into an invoice with time and date stamp done across the board. Excuse me. All right, so that's kind of giving you a bit of a high level on the integrations where we're talking about. Next, I want to talk about communications. And this really is really one of our more popular modules now. This is the back end of our data messenger. And again, everyone gets their email notifications when you buy something online. Immediately, you've gotten a notification. Amazon, when they deliver products now, take a picture, you get a picture of those products. You have those same capabilities with Data Messenger. And the concept behind this is you have a message ID number, you give it a name, come up here to start, and you tell the system, okay, which document are we associating with this message, or is triggering the message, I should say. As you see in here, it's not just restricted to customers' transactions. You know, it could be a journal entry. You could set up a journal entry. You could set up a rule that says, hey, if someone enters a journal entry for 500,000 or more, send me a notification about it and send me the details on it. It could be something for production. It could be really pretty much every SAP transaction. Maybe we missed one, but I think we hit them all, service calls and so forth. So in there, this one is a delivery, and it also could be a custom document. So for us, it could be our containers, or if you've developed you know, your own tables, or your partner has. And the trigger is on the transaction add, update, add and update, delete, and so forth. So if somebody cancels an order, you could have a nice email go out, your order's been canceled, your bill's been credited, whatever, and you don't have to do anything to trigger that. The delivery method can be email, FTP, printer, SAP message, or text. And again, you have to have outside email services. You have to have outside SMS text services. So we're hooking up and connecting with those outside products. We don't have email of our own. We don't have texting of our own. It's a link to those third-party products. If you want to get creative, you could have a query in here for the notification. So it could be some rules that only send it to this customer that are in the state of New Jersey or New York, otherwise send a different message to customers in a different location, okay? So those could be queries that are generating, again, if you have the capabilities, or your partner could easily do that. Who it's going to, you don't have to say bob@abccompany.com. It could be the contact person on the transaction, the default contact on the business partner card. So you spend some time in here setting up the rules of the recipients, and you don't really need to do anything else after that. You could actually put in some conditions that says, okay, if it's over a certain dollar amount, send it to Sally. If it's under that, send it to Bob. The email piece of it, or the messaging piece of it, it's pretty standard nowadays. It's a blend of standard text and then SAP fields that you're putting inside your message. So if I wanted to put in, you know, their business partner balance, you know, how much they owe us, put that in there, you know, type of thing, and that will be inside the message. It could be plain text or it could be HTML. And this is nice that we have people using this really a lot. You could have an attachment automatically associated with this this message. So it could be a crystal report, it could be HTML, or it could be data. So if it's something that's going to go in someone else's system, it could be an Excel format, it could be an XML or a text file. So if someone says, hey, you know what, we give you large quotes with 50 line items, you know, we call it in or whatever, send it back to us in an Excel format so we can get it into our system, okay? And you could define the layout of the fields. If you have a static file, so sometimes people may have an MSDS sheet or some other sales sheet that they want to have, that could be as an attachment here. And finally, you could create an SAP activity. So if this is a collection call of sending a statement, then you could have an activity created, the attachment of the activity, standard stuff, and then what's the email carrier that you're using. The same rules I have for email, you have for FTP, pretty much the same rules, whether it's being printed, going to SAP messages, or going to be a text. And again, the text is usually a third-party provider that you're using, that we're passing through the account information. So this is the design of the text, and please, you know, please pay your bill, whatever it might be. But again, it could go out to vendors, could go out to customers, any external email address it can go to. Okay, so that is it's one feature that nails, you know, improved communication across the board. All right, with another 10 minutes left, perfect. I want to talk about operational efficiencies. We have developed what we call advanced allocations. Now, advanced allocations is a way for you to create templates that automatically generate SAP pick tickets based off of the rules that you define. And again, you spend a little bit more time up front, but once transactions hit these rules, you don't have to do anything to release orders into the warehouse. The front end screen is pretty blah, but this is the name of it. This is the rule type. So this particular one for home goods store, we're gonna have it run every 2 hours and it will release the home goods orders, okay? So it's based off of a rule. The other way that the pick tickets could be generated, similar to the document delivery, is based on the add. So you automatically add it. If it meets a certain rule, it will generate the pick ticket, okay? Behind the scenes, you then get more details. So in this one, it's a query. Again, I don't know my queries, but here's a query that somebody wrote, and it has to be, you know, 100% filled, so you get 100% filled rate for home goods, so you don't get any chargebacks. And it's going to be for sales orders, reserve orders, production orders, transfers, or use a standard SAP query that you created, okay? So you have your query rules, which are going to say it has to meet this criteria to generate the pick ticket. So that's your first option. Once it meets that rule, then it says, okay, we know we have orders for home goods, but we still may not release it because only release it if we can fulfill it 100%. Do I want to include non-inventory items? So you have your release rules, you have your bin allocation rules. And again, some of this is standard SAP or similar to SAP functionality that's in the Pick Pack Manager. But again, you have some advanced rules. So if you want to put in some rules that you want to pick, if it's over 24, each is pick it as a case. So how do you want to handle some of those rules for units of measure? Or if you want to make sure you're picking the oldest items first. You could split it, again, similar to Business One, but we added some additional functionality. And then how do we want to allocate the inventory from what bins? If you've already set it up inside of SAP's rules at the warehouse level, we'll look at those rules. We have a handful of other rules, FIFO, LIFO, custom, so forth. So again, we use SAP queries over and over again in our software, which gives you a lot more bang for the buck, but we want to use some allocation rules for, in this case, it's Walmart bins or home good bins. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, you could assign it to a specific worker. So, Tammy always picks home good orders because she knows their products and she, makes sure that they're filled correctly. So with doing that, it's going to run on a scheduler. Once orders meet those transactional rules, it will automatically create the pick list. And again, it could be a production order, could be lots of other things. We have a log file, so time and date stamping across the board. All right. Lastly, when we talk about efficiencies and everything coming together and driving out of Business One, and I've missed a lot of functionality, is to talk about mostly it's warehouse management, but it's not limited to warehouse management. And what you're seeing here, and if you're up to date on where SAP is going, this is SAP Fiori. This is the same technology that SAP has developed in version 10 or using for development in version 10. And we've developed this, again, about 5 years ago. We embraced the technology. So SAP's pick tickets, after you go through those things, the allocations of the pick pack manager, you could do your picks here, or you could do wave picking. So we have the picks, we have the packs, we have what we call touch picks. So if there's images, instead of doing the scanning, if you want to verify via images from the item master, you can. We also have the vehicle routing. As I was mentioning earlier, sometimes, again, a lot of distributors have their own trucks, and if they want to get visibility to what's going on, we've done a few things with our truck routing system. One is our routing manager will tie into different mapping software. So if we're building a route today and we want to have all of the orders that are going on the Queens truck, let's say a Brooklyn or Queens truck, I could look at all of the orders that are on the Brooklyn route, and I got to tell the system what truck we're gonna put it on, and pass inspection, of course. Let me try one more. Okay, so we get the driver. Okay, so in here, those assigned to somebody else. I'll put them here. You can come in here and you can say, I want to have, this is my first stop and so forth. And these are going to be the different stops. And if I'm the old guy that's been working at the company for a long time, I know what I'm doing and I can do my different stops here. And I can say, first you go here, then you go here, and you go here. And you'll see Salisbury Hill, I have there, and I'll throw something else in for the Manhattan route because my truck isn't filled. I'll throw some other orders there. Now, what you can do, and I may get an error, I didn't have enough time to test this. What we do here is we use web services, and we will go out to either Google Maps or Waze, about 6 or 7 different mapping softwares that we have. And the system, based off of real-time time and date stamp, it says where are you coming from, what time is it right now, so it's mid-afternoon, it shouldn't be too bad. It will optimize it. And again, it may not find the mapping software if I don't have it hooked up on this demo server. Okay, it worked. So it said, okay, based off of today's routes, and you notice before I had Salisbury Hill split up, just go here first, go to SAP Hudson, then go to Brooklyn and work your way back. And it puts everything into the various stops. So this is my planned route for the day, and that's using web services automatically. As the routes are going out there, I'm going to pick up a different one. As the routes are out there, and you want to take a look at and answer some questions for people, hey, where's my order? What's going on? Let me pick the other one from August. This one. Say this one here. Okay, so this one has 205 stops. So as the driver's making their deliveries, it's automatically updating Business One real time through the web services. So these have been delivered. He or she is on his way to Barzell Electronics, then they go to SAP Hudson. If I open up the document, okay, this will have the line items that are going there. It will have what time they arrived, they delivered, who it was received by, and we have a signature capture. And once it's all done, it updates back into Business One and automatically invoices the customer if you have that feature set up. So this is a great customer service tool that ties the whole integration together, and you complete the route and off you go. Okay. Other areas just to talk about in the warehouse. Again, people will use devices that are similar to the size of a phone. You can use a tablet for packing, things like that. But it's really coming from the SAP transaction. So here's a purchase order I did before, purchase order 14522. And in here, I'm just going to duplicate it. It's to Thomas Shelby Wines. And again, that was the first one. The next one I'm going to be selling to or buying from the wine importer. Okay, so there's my purchase order. I'll change some quantities here. And that's PO 14523. So by adding it, if I just come into the warehouse, I can do my receiving. My receiving, I could do a container if that went into a container, which I'll show you, or it goes right into the purchase order. I could scan it or I could look it up. The real nice thing about what we've done in the WMS is the searching capabilities. You don't need, some of the old ones that run on like Windows Mobile, which is not even available anymore. It's hard to find products and do searches. You have to scan it or there's a little bit of a search button. You'll see in here I have it sorted by oldest to newest, but I have some different sorting options that makes it a lot easier for me. As the screens change based off the size of the device I have, the windows will also change. So I can receive in this product. I don't have a scanner with me, but these will come from the default bin locations for the item. So it's going to want me to put it in the receiving area so it could do some staging. We could do something called license plates. I could hide finish so I'm not looking at the same items over and over. And I'm just, receiving, scanning away, and so forth. So this is set up in some of the rules that we have, not to put it into a bin location, not to use the directed put away rules, but to put it into the receiving dock. And it's a two-step process where one person receives it and then another person puts it away. But when I hit finish, do I want to print any labels? I'll say no. This little message here, this is writing data to the tables in the service layer through the service layer, and everything is posted. And the PO that I just entered has been closed. Now this is our demo server in Ireland on our demo site. So this has been closed. And looking at the relationship map, you'll see in here the goods receipt, which time and date stamps the transaction down here. If I had any serial or batches, they'll be in here. The other thing I didn't mention, if you could put notes, so it makes it a lot easier for your warehouse workers that come back into the warehouse, or if they have a device that has a camera on it, so if there is some damaged goods, they could take a picture of the item, and this way that's associated with the purchase order and it'll help get your credit. I'm going to finish up. There's a lot of other areas related to the WMS that are again, very useful. I'll finish up where I showed earlier. I entered in an item. I entered in a UPC number 9991234. I can scan that, and by scanning that item into what we call the quick search, what it does, it shows me where that item is. So that's kind of an example of the integration and how it's all embedded into B1. But I have a box of sea salt in my hand. Where is this in the warehouse? Scan it, and it will tell me all of the bin locations for this item. Okay. I can see the units of measure, the different warehouse quantities. If there's any attachments, I can add an attachment here or see any that have been done. And then I can look at all of the sales orders for the item, purchase orders, pick tickets, productions directly here. And again, I'm getting this data from Business One by just clicking this and getting the data through the service layer. So with about 4 minutes left, we'll go a little bit over. Tammy, if you want to unmute everybody to see if there's any questions.
Yes, I did get some questions come through the console, the panel there. One of them is what you showed us in WMS available for both HANA and Microsoft SQL versions of SAP Business One?
Yes, it is. So the WMS, but you have to be on version 10. So SAP provided us some technologies that allow us to, with the service layer, allow us to have the WMS now as part of SQL as well as HANA, but you have to be, again, on version 10 if you're on SQL.
Okay. Steve asked, does the container module provide the capability to have items from multiple vendors and multiple purchase orders on a single inbound container?
Yes. So if you have, 2 or 3 vendors overseas and somebody's consolidating that for you, it can go on to one container can have items from many vendors and many purchase orders, but also on the other side, you could have one purchase order that is split across multiple shipments and containers. If there's, like right now, with supply chain issues, there's back orders. So your plant overseas may only produce 5,000 of 10,000, and that can be split on another purchase order. So yeah, we definitely do that.
Okay. And Megan asked, does your advanced allocations module replace SAP B1's pick and pack manager, or is it used along with it?
It's used along with it. We have people that use it along with it. We have people that just use it because they think it's more powerful. But ultimately, we're creating an SAP pick list. So it's just another more sophisticated way to create SAP's pick lists.
Okay, let me just take a look. We have a couple more questions here. David asked, do we need the EDI module to use Resolv's 3PL module?
No. If your 3PL provider requires EDI, we could use our EDI for it. But if you have a 3PL provider that doesn't have EDI but wants to exchange just data, you can use the 3PL only.
Okay. And we have time for about one more question here. We have one from Catherine. We utilize regional shipping carriers. If the Resolv Freight module does not have an integration to some of our carriers, is it possible to add?
Yes, depending on the carrier. We're usually dependent on the technology that the provider supports. So if their system can give us their information in an XML or text format or standard format, then we can integrate with them. And we've done that quite a bit, and then we'll add it to our library. For the most part, it usually takes us about a day of time that we'll charge the customer for between the integration, the testing, and so forth. But yeah, 8 to 10 hours at most to do an integration.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Tim, for walking us through the demo today and going over Resolv.